Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Konix, and welcome to YACC, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game, I play it for a week, and then I talk about it. This week's game is Armikrog, and it was developed by Pencil Test Studios and published by Versus Evil. And also will be spoilers up ahead, just so you know. But first, a little backstory. I had a friend back in the day, and she really loved this game called The Neverhood. And it's kind of sort of a prequel to this game. And they use a painstakingly method which involves animating clay frame by frame, and they made like a point and click. And it's kind of a real interesting concept, just creating this world entirely out of clay. And I really never got into the Neverhood series, but you know, it was interesting to me. So when I heard that the same developer had like a Kickstarter for like a something more developed, more like a sci-fi, I was like, I'm all in, I have to play this game basically. So this game starts out with an intro sequence explaining the plot. So there's this planet called Ixion, and they need plutonium there to survive. Otherwise they would die basically. So they send out 3 astronauts, 2 of them go missing somehow, and you play as one of them called Tommy or Tommy Not, and you're going to Spyro 5 to get plutonium. And you crash land there with your dog Beak, and you get chased by a monster with a silly tongue and many eyes, and you end up in the fortress or the puzzle maze called Armikrog. So this game is a point and click, so you basically want to pick up everything you can see, and that's the whole point of it. So I even went as far to like draw up a map for the place and have it's all filled with like notes and stuff with all the rooms and everything, and it's kind of clever how they designed the game anyway, because it's this weird kind of alien world that you enter. But anyway, in the first room you have a crank lying on the floor which you pick up, and you can use it to move on to the next room to the left. But before I did that, there was this window that I looked out, and it was kind of funny. You looked out and you saw that monster chasing other monsters, and he ate one of them and he pooped them out, and all this kind of crazy kind of claymation stuff happening. And I looked out again and nothing happened, and I looked out again and it was a jump scare basically, and it caught me off guard, and I thought that was funny because, you know, usually in games, point and clicks, when you do something over and over again, like the door is locked, and that's what's going to be repeated. But here, right in your face, scared me. I love that. So you use the crank or the lever to open up another door to the left. And in the next room, you find a statue, which has like a hologram or a spirit in it that gives you hints throughout the game. So he basically tells you something like, in the next room, you need to go through unseen or something, and it's kind of vague, and it took me a lot of trial and error to figure this out. But basically you go into the next room, and you push this kind of, it's basically a furry block monster to get in there, and you turn off the light and you use Beak to go through a small hall in the wall, and you activate him by pressing triangle or square, so then you just control him. So Beak is a blind psychic dog, if that makes sense. He doesn't have eyes, but somehow he can navigate through areas. So you move through like a tunnel area in the wall, and you find another lever, and you end up in the first room that you were when you basically entered Armikrog, and that room is now sealed off because once you went through to the second room, the door shut. But there's like a symbol on the wall, so you have to remember that. I couldn't find any information about this, but you're supposed to collect 3 symbols for a slider puzzle later in the game, because it's a puzzle game. So I wrote down like this symbol, and I don't even remember. It looks like a bird or something. But anyway, went back to the room where Tommy was, and Beak coughed up the lever, so you can use it in the previous room to the right. And the statue gave another hint if you click it, I guess. So basically pushing the block monster into the entrance of the other room, so the door can't close. Then a vine drops down from the ceiling. And it's a bit convoluted how you enter this alien world and you don't really know, because most of the puzzles aren't that logical. They are, well, I guess they're logical for this alien world, but everything is weird. So a yellow wine drops from the floor above, and you climb up there, and you enter this fleshy room with a slider puzzle on the left and a door and like this cocoon. And I clicked on the cocoon, and this bug popped out, and I thought that was funny because the bug introduced himself as Abra Ants Lincoln, and he could speak like fully articulate, and I was like, what is going on with this game? And it's like, what is this? So I couldn't do anything in this room, and I figured out you can climb up like even higher on the vine. And there's something good with the PS4 version here. You have like in the options menu, you can toggle the cursor to items you can pick up, and it's kind of hard to know what you can click on and what you can pick up and whatnot. So it's a nice feature because there's a lot of things on the screen, and I don't want to go pixel through everything to just find out what I can pick up and whatnot. So I went up another floor, and there was this room with a hole in the wall, and there's like this weird kind of octopus crank thing, if that makes sense. So I figured out that it looks like you can turn something in there, so I basically need a crank to do something with it. And also there was like a button, so I figured out that I can take control of Beak and put him or station him on the button. A door opened to another room to the side, and I went into that room, and there's like this big like dome, like one of those things you have like over cheese, like a plastic or glass thing, basically like a conservative thing. And inside was not a red shard, but a green shard. And there's like vacuum tubes and another puzzle that wasn't unlocked yet. So there's a lot of trial and error in trying to figure out what to do. So I went back to the room, and I went up another floor with the yellow wine, and it turns out that the yellow wine was connected to an octopus. And this game is weird, but it's, makes me smile everything when you believe something is some way, and it's, twists your perspective of it or whatever. So I went to the room of the right of this like octopus thing, and I found a crank. So I immediately know that I have to go back to the room below this one or previous. So I used the crank, and I cranked it 3 times, and I opened up a chamber with there's like a red weird room, and there was this machine and a little crawlway for Beak. So I sent Beak in there, and he wound up at the like in a tunnel area, and he came out about next or beside the octopus thing. And since Beak is like psychic, I could tap into the octopus mind, and he talked. So there was this animated sequence explaining more or less the lore again, but the speech was all in gibberish alien, but it had images to accompany this, so you learn a little bit about the story. So I think that the guy in the hologram in the statue in the second room, that he was murdered and he turned into this hologram kind of thing. The octopus kind of gives you like this part you need for the machine in the red room. So I put the thing into the machine, and it started pumping like green fluid and stuff. And that's what I'm gonna end up, or like stop talking about it, because it took me so long to just get to this part. But it was frustrating and everything, and I didn't want to go out on YouTube to like unlock like the story. I don't want to spoil myself. That's what I was trying to say, I guess. So I had to watch like the right amount to just okay, now I know what I need to do. So I don't want to spoil more of the game, but there's this weird story that's coming up, and once you get over that like threshold or like that difficulty curve or whatever, it just got loose for me, and I enjoyed the game. So gameplay: save the planet Ixion with Tommy or Tommyknot with your friend Beak, and solve the puzzles of Armikrog. Control: square and triangle activates Beak or lets you control him, the dog, and X basically interacts or make you walk into that direction basically, and the left stick moves the cursor around, and options menu brings up the options basically. And there's this smart function that I talked about before in the options menu about a smart cursor or toggle. So it basically, when you get near to something you can pick up or interact with, it kind of draws the cursor to that area and makes it a lot easier to know what's interactable and what things you can pick up and whatnot. So graphics. This game was made with clay, so everything is like, as far as I understand, it was made out of clay, and they painstakingly animated the characters, but it was ported somehow to Unity. So it's kind of an interesting thing how they put up all this kind of effort to make a game, and then, I mean, it's fascinating, that's what I'm trying to say. Sound and music. Terry Scott Taylor made the soundtrack for this game, and it's brilliant. I recommend you check it out on YouTube. There's like 19 tracks or something like that, and they're unique and weird and alien, which there are supposed to be. So in conclusion, I wrote no, but I'm changing it to yes, because after struggling a bit with this game and coming over the hurdles and everything, looking up a walkthrough or a playthrough, it became a fun game to play, and it's silly, and it has this weird humor, a little bit puzzle heavy, and not always like you know where to go, but there's like this challenge to it, and it made me laugh a bit. And this is definitely a game that I'll be playing after this, after I uploaded this thing. And there's something about that weird kind of claymation style. Some think it's freaky and weird, and I love it, because it's like I can like appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into something like this, and all the effort to make something this cool and interesting. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.